So bracing is next for our top and back, and the bracing really has the job of keeping the instrument together, keeping the strings from ripping that bridge off the top, and also for shaping the tonality of the instrument. We have a lot of different bracing patterns that we apply to the different guitars to try to create different tonalities within each of the designs. But one thing's constant is that we use a 25-foot radius for our top. So the top is actually not flat. The name flat top guitar is a little bit of a misnomer, but actually we're going to build a slight radius into it, which is going to increase the projection and increase the stability of the guitar over the life of its playability. And so I'm going to show you guys how we put those braces on over here. Sean's got a top just ready to go on our bracing stations here, and we're actually using vacuum pressure. We're using atmospheric pressure to provide the clamping force. It's pretty common in the industry today, but what we do is we suck all the air out from underneath these rubber membranes. We can close the lid on this vacuum sheeting, suck all the air out, and let the atmospheric pressure do the actual clamping for us. Once he gets an even coat of glue on the braces, he's going to place that brace, laying it out to be with our drawn pattern, being real careful to put it right on the lines. So we call this the bridge patch, but he's putting glue on it nonetheless, and once he gets this glue on here and a little caul to provide clamp pressure, he's going to close that lid, suck all the air out, and that's going to provide the clamping force we need for our brace to glue up real properly. Here you can see the brace is embossed through that latex membrane, showing how much the atmosphere is just pushing down all around there. All this clamping is actually going to force some squeeze out from underneath the braces. The glue is going to come out from under the brace, and we're going to clean that all up as soon as it gets leather hard. Here's our back ready to be glued up. This is a nice piece of myrtle wood that we've got actually sucked down with a little suction cup. We use a lot of vacuum technology in the shop to do various things, especially work holding, and we're going to do essentially the same thing with the back of the instrument. We're going to just lightly sand the brace. Each brace is sanded just a little bit in a matching form so that all the radii throughout the construction process are going to match one another. 16 feet for the back, 25 feet for the top. A little bit of glue here. It's going to get the glue nice and spread out evenly. We'll put it on our back here in our preset location, and then close the lid and open the valve to allow the vacuum clamping of the back. Come back in about 5 minutes and we'll scrape that glue out, because we don't want to look inside our guitars and see a lot of glue coming out from underneath those braces. We use a lot of different bracing patterns to try to accomplish different tonalities within our instruments. Here, for example, is a nylon string pattern. You can see the traditional fan bracing, although this is a more modern version with a slanted lower harmonic bar, and it's compressed more on the treble side, looser on the bass to try to create space for bass wavelengths to develop in the top, and also tighter areas of the top for the treble to emanate. We use a different pattern for just about every single guitar that we build to kind of tweak the tone just a little bit. Here, for example, is our 12-string pattern with a longer, very peaked X brace in a third lower tone bar. Here, for example, would be the pattern for the CM. So our craftsmen can look up on the wall and refer to these. Whenever they're building an instrument, they can kind of see what they're supposed to be emulating when they look at these reference patterns. This is our most popular pattern, the concert, and you can see almost all the Breedlove guitars are distinguished by a very deeply scalloped X brace and tone bars. And we can get away with this because of our use of the bridge truss. We can really design the top to maximize the sonorous nature of the guitar without having to worry so much about the structural integrity of the guitar. The bridge truss relaxes the top. It takes a lot of the torsional load off of the top, allowing us to brace the guitar more for its sound and less having to be worried about the long-term longevity of the instrument, because the bridge truss is going to help us a lot with that. In addition to our custom shop instruments, we also have the Revival series, which are also built here in the custom shop. I guess I should clarify that. And these sort of emulate some of our favorite guitars from the 1930s. And they have a very forward shifted X brace, scalloped, very tall peaked braces, very lightweight, very loud, responsive, almost explosive sounding instrument. Whereas more of our custom shop designs are very smooth, harmonically rich, great for strumming and finger picking, and some of the patterns for heavier playing as well. This is the bending station where we bend all of our sides. Every single guitar is bent on these two machines, and it has been since the very first days of Breedlove. So it's pretty amazing. But these Fox benders, we call them, because they were designed by a really neat man named Charles Fox, have been in service since 1990, and they've bent thousands of guitars. What's really cool about these benders is that the forms that go inside of them are interchangeable, and we offer no less than 9 different body shapes. All these body shapes are interchangeable in the Fox bender, so we can bend every single side, all the different shapes in the same bender. It's pretty neat, and they're heated simply by light bulbs. You probably know this, but incandescent light bulbs lose about 92% of their energy to infrared radiation heat. So they actually make better heaters than they do light sources. So after just a couple minutes of preheating, the steel platens that we've placed over our bending forms are going to heat up to the point that they're almost too hot to touch, somewhere in the range of 230, 250 degrees, enough to boil water though. What we're going to do is we're going to take our sides, our flat, solid pieces of rosewood in this case for a dreadnought guitar. The addition of heat and moisture to the wood softens the lignin, which is the glue that holds all the wood fiber together, sufficiently that we can hand form the guitar side to the shape of the guitar. And after cooking it for a few minutes in that new shape, it really changes the molecular structure of the wood, and it will, after that, hold its shape as a guitar side forever. It's pretty amazing. So here are some sides that have come out of the benders, and you can see, even though they've been out of the bender for some hours now, they're still really the shape of a guitar. So our bender's just about hot enough that I can't touch it anymore, meaning it's hot enough. We're gonna grab the spray bottle and just moisten down the side. Every species requires a slightly different amount of moisture and a slightly different touch to bend. First thing is we've got to align these marks for the waist and for the cutaway with the bender. Next, we're going to pull up on this waist spring. This is just going to bring the heat up into the waist, which is the most critical part in the bend because it's some of the sharpest bending. And then as we feel the sides start to plasticize, as it gets soft enough, we'll slowly crank the waist first down with this press screw, and then literally by hand we're going to bend the shape of the guitar from the waist on back. Now this guitar is a soft cutaway, and so we're actually still going to bend this later on, the soft cutaway portion, by hand on the hot pipe. But for now, with the guitar, we'll use our Nomex firefighting glove to protect my hand from the heat, and we'll simply push down on the guitar side, feeling for its sort of compliance to my pressure. As it gets soft, we'll keep pushing it around, forming it to the shape of the guitar. We'll close this down to hold the heat in, and we'll set our timer switch to cook it for 7 or 8 minutes. It's kind of like cooking in a Dutch oven, if you've ever done that, making a cake. When all the moisture is driven out of the wood, the next thing you smell is the smell of the wood itself, and that's when you know it's done. So here we have a piece of mahogany that's eventually going to become 2 necks for Breedlove guitars. This is actually what we call a billet. It's a squared up piece of wood. It's about 27 inches long by 2 3/8, about 4 inches tall. And we're going to make 2 necks, one from this side and one from the other side. And I'm going to show you all the steps that we're going to go through roughly before we get the necks to the point at which we can take them over and have them carved on the CNC machine. First step is to get them to this billet stage. Then we'll take our neck blanks and literally just lay this right on top of the billet, and we can trace that out with a pencil, tracing it out here, and then we'll take it over to the bandsaw and cut out the shape of the neck. Once we have the neck cut out, we're going to glue on what we call ears. Ears are sort of the additional pieces we need to make up the extra width on the headstock, because if we didn't do that, the pieces of wood we'd have to use would be prohibitively large and costly, and it would really be a waste of the resource. After we get the ears glued on, we can cut the truss rod channel, inlay the truss rod, and then cut the peg head face and glue on our peg head veneer. We have a series of index holes too, which we've drilled, and then the inserts, which we put in the back of this mandolin neck, for example, are what we're going to bolt the neck onto the guitar with. We use all bolt-on construction, and the acoustic guitars and mandolins. Electrics have a set neck construction, and some of the finer, more expensive mandolins as well. But the bolt-on neck allows for easy adjustability. We're going to put those inserts in now before we take them over to the CNC shop and carve the necks into a finished, nearly playable shape on our computer numerical controlled milling machine. Here we are at the Breedlove machine shop, and we're taking the parts that you guys saw started over at the wood shop, and we're putting them on our computer numerical controlled milling machine that you see behind me. This is one of 3 very new Fidal milling machines that we have, and what it allows us to do is accurately replicate the hand-carved neck, for example, that Kim Breedlove might have hand-carved years ago when production was only 4 or 5 instruments per week. We did everything by hand. Every single neck was hand-carved. Over time, as demand grew, we had to find ways to make efficiencies and some savings and allow our customers to experience the same sort of feel that we would have with a hand-carved neck. And that's where CNC technology comes in, because by teaching the computer how to make necks exactly as we would, we can get the same feel out of every single Breedlove guitar neck, time in and time out. So here we have a bunch of necks. These are blanks. We saw these over at the wood shop being produced. We get them to a stage where they're close and ready for the CNC machine to start carving them into the barrel and then the peg head with its tuner holes. And that's what you see going on behind me here. The machine is actually what we call interpolating the heel. Now it's carving the barrel and up into the hand stop of the neck before returning on a series of hundreds of passes actually. When we get done, you can see that the surface finish is very fine, and the shape is exactly like a neck that Kim Breedlove hand carved about 10 years ago that we digitized. So we took a neck and we took all the shapes off of it and turned it into some lines of digital code that we can then teach the CNC machine to replicate, allowing us to essentially reproduce a hand-shaped feel, but in a mass production setting. The surface finish is close, but there's still a lot of handwork involved to finish it up. I think one of the things that's really different here at Breedlove is very often, not always, but very often, what we're doing is we're actually reverse engineering our parts. We're not taking, for example, some lines of code that we've drawn up in a CAD program and just making some necks that way, but what we're trying to do is to teach the machine to do it exactly like we would have done it if we were hand making a part. Every single part of this Breedlove guitar at one time was handmade. The smoked rosette, the wing bridge, all the complex artistic details used to all be hand done, and over the years we've simply taught the machines how to replicate that artistry. And it's very different than just drawing something on the computer and putting it on the machine. The type of neck that you feel doesn't feel necessarily like a handmade neck when you draw it in CAD space, as opposed to what we do when we're reverse engineering, where we're actually taking a handmade neck and tracing 1,000 or more points off of the surface of that neck to recreate the shape of the handmade neck on the CNC. It's actually a much more complicated and time-consuming process to reverse engineer something, but I think the results are worth it. I hope you can feel that when you pick up a Breedlove guitar, that it really does represent the culmination of artistry as well as mass production high technology. One of the other really cool things about CNC technology is on this one machine we can produce necks for our Custom Shop series with our signature peg head shape. We can produce necks with a squared peg head. This is just a blank for our Revival series. We can produce mandolin necks. We can produce bridges. We can rosette tops. It's a very flexible machine that allows us to do a lot of things without having to invest in a lot of fixtures and permanent tooling and to take up a lot of shop space.